Welcome everyone to the fourth episode of Just Joshing. My name is Joshua Pentelarusco. I write stuff, and apparently I podcast stuff too, as this has now reached 4 episodes. It's been a fun experience so far. I've had 3 amazing guests, and I'm going to continue this week with the legendary, well, maybe it's a little too soon to call him a legend, but nonetheless, he's very, very good, GMB Chomichuk. God, I hope I said that right. Probably punch me if he listens to this and goes, "You mispronounced my name." Then I just tell him to dare to pronounce my name though, and he'll probably just be quiet because my name's not exactly the easiest thing in the world, but nonetheless. I met GMB years ago actually, and I thought he was an amazing talent back in the day. When I saw his first graphic novel, and he's done quite a bit more since. And I feel like I'm playing catch up to him in some ways because just the sheer amount of volume of books he has out there. To put it bluntly, he's come a real, real long way. I love his ideology of horror. I love how he tells his stories. He's really, really gifted. We talked about some of that. We talked about some of the different things that, we both kind of like. And it's amazing to me how different a lot of different artists, a lot of different mediums, sometimes have similar philosophies. Some of the ways he likes to tell stories are like how I like telling stories. And as you can see so far, I've had 2 authors, a graphic novelist, and an illustrator so far on this podcast. And I'm hoping to continue the diversity in the weeks and months to come with this podcast, because I like different art forms, and I'm a fan of a lot of different, I guess performances is the right word. I just like people doing neat things, and I'm really hoping that people listening to this like some of the neat things that are being done. So anyway, since we are talking comic books here this week and graphic novels, I'll actually talk about what I've been reading the last little bit. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what I finally recently got through Kickstarter. A buddy of mine 2 years ago got me a Christmas present for a graphic novel called Snowbird, which is done by Erin Brown, and she did her Kickstarter thing, and she was really behind, and finally got it like the last week, but I gotta say the wait was worth it. Snowbird is a really interesting take on keeping yourself together and trying to find kind of figuring out where your place is in the world, and depression and dealing with some really adult issues. It's a really, really amazing book. I thought she did a really good job. I'm really hoping at some point to see books 2 and 3. I'm sure there'll be a Kickstarter at some point with that. On a personal note, I'm not allowed to be on Kickstarter. I tend to do horrible, horrible things if I'm on Kickstarter way too long. It's not that I don't think Kickstarter has some amazing stuff. The truth of the matter is Kickstarter always has amazing stuff, and it's really, really hard to say no to Kickstarter once you see some of the things out there. Yeah, comics in particular, there's some amazing stuff out there all the time, and I just think that I can't give myself that privilege, because if I give myself that privilege, I'll never have money, and Lord knows I read enough comic books as is. Which, since we're continuing down the comic book trend, what are my favorite books right now? Well, everybody likes Saga. Well, you should like Saga. Saga is almost, actually is, it's basically a classic story retold in modern day, and Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples kill it every time. And it's one of those books where I've never ever thought it was horrible, ever. Even at its worst, it's still better than 90% of the books out there. It does well for a very good reason, and I think really if you give it a chance, you should really check it out. There's the trades, because again the first issues is kind of impossible at this point. But all in all, it's a really worthwhile book. Let's see. Rachel Rising, to me, is probably the most underrated book on the market. Rachel Rising is done by Terry Moore. Terry Moore does everything. He writes it, he draws it, he inks it, he letters it. It is an incredible work each and every month. The only thing I kind of feel the book loses on is the covers. I really, really, really think that they don't do the interiors justice, because the interiors are amazing. His detail, his attention to his storytelling is bar none the best I right now today. And I feel sometimes that a lot of people will overlook this book because of the covers. And that's not really not the way it should be. It's really probably the best book on the market. Let's see. What else do I really, really like right now? I love Miss Marvel. That's probably my favorite Marvel book right this minute. It's a tie. It's a tie between that one and the other one I'll talk about in a minute. Miss Marvel is G. Willow Wilson, Adrian Alphina, Dake Alfana, I think is the right way to say it. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with names, and I really shouldn't be, considering mine. But Ms. Marvel is a really, really fun book, and I just got the last issue of the book today, and the current run. Marvel's rebooting, being what it is, to me, it kind of wrecks the whole ambiance and feel, what maybe the book should be. How it was my phone, by the way. But that all said, it's a beautiful story. It's a coming-of-age story about a kid who inherits powers of Miss Marvel, who used to be Carol Danvers, is now Kamala Khan, and Kamala is trying to figure things out, and it was really nice to see the payoff of issue 19, and just all the different storylines for the first year and a half come together in a really neat way, without a doubt. Actually, no, it's not without a doubt. It is probably the best superhero book Marvel does, and they should be really proud of it. I really wish they could have kept the price point there. It is the one book I would recommend to any age, any genre, any gender, because it does everything so well. The fact that it's going to $3.99 like every other book, which in Canada, by the way, is $5, with the exchange rate being what it is. I really, really feel like if you want an entry book, that one should be it. So speaking of Marvel, I really dig Silver Surfer. Surfer is like Doctor Who. Dan Slott is a huge Doctor Who fan, and he has fun telling Doctor Who-like stories with Surfer, which I'm okay with. Silver Surfer has not been done well in nearly 20 years. Okay, maybe not quite that long. No, maybe actually. Yeah, about 20 years. And he's done... I thought the first issue wasn't the best, but every issue after that has gotten better and better. It is without a doubt it's most fun Marvel has every month. Miss Marvel is just, all in all, just damn near perfect package. But Surfer is probably the most fun you'll read. From Valiant, I love Ninjak. Ninjak is... You can tell when a writer's really enjoying a character. And Ninjak is Matt Kint's baby. And you can see it how he writes the character and how he portrays the character. He's having a blast. And it's always cool to read a book when a creator is enjoying it. Like, thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying it. I'm a huge... the other Valiant book I really like is Exo Manowar. Robert Venditti has managed to do a really, really neat sci-fi epic, and with Exo Manowar. Conan in a can, and he's made that character so much more. By this point in the original Valiant run, the character had lost a lot of steam, and 40 some odd issues down the road, Exo is still strong. It's never... Like I said, I like Ninjak a little bit more right now, but Exo is definitely definitely a solid read, month in, month out. Hmm. And the last book I'm really enjoying right now is Black Canary. I just like the presentation of the book. It's really, really, it's well done. It feels almost like a musical when I read it. It's definitely got a musical quality to it. The presentation of Black Canary as a rock band and Dinah being an undercover military whatever as part of the band definitely adds to that. But it's got one of those really neat presentations you don't see from the big two or actually any comic company right now, and it's fun. It doesn't try to be anything more than it is, and it's done a really good job of creating sympathy for all the characters in there. So all in all, I mean, those are probably the best books right now um, from all the companies I'm reading. There's a lot of books I'm not telling you about in this because I got to talk about another podcast at this point somewhere down the road. But yeah, it's a really healthy comic book industry. And my next guest being an independent comic book creator, and I think an up and coming one, to be very honest with you, seemed like an appropriate topic for the day. So, without further ado, well, one more thing. One more thing now that I think about it. I want to do a song of the week. So, if there's any musical acts that are listening to this podcast, I would love to have a song just to play on there. I'm not going to promise any financial reward because Lord knows I'm not rich. I'm I'm shooting for rich and shameless, and I'm one of the two, and I'll let you figure out which one of the two I am. But yeah, so I can't do that. But I would just, like I said, it's just a thought. I would love to be able to showcase bands, all kinds, as long as I'm not listening to profane laced lyrics. You know, we're good. I don't mind some profanity, but you gotta have a little bit more to your song than that. So nothing like that Limp Bizkit song where the word fuck is pretty much every other word. So, but besides that, if you want to do this, if you wanna be featured on this podcast, email me at michaelthroughtime@live.com. And yeah, I think it's time to go to the interview. So without further ado, here's GMB Chomichuk. Alright, I am standing in the back halls with GMB Chomichuk. We're plotting our secret plans to take over the world at this moment. And me using this horror cabal. Alright, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yes, I almost made you laugh there.
It came close. But I'm such a dour guy. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I know. Just try to keep it as mellow as I can. Maybe not be too intimidating by you, sir. How you been?
It's been a great festival. When the Words Collide is this is my second year coming. I came 2 years ago, which is where I met my publisher, which has published the book that we're promoting here, Infinitum. So it was we've come full circle.
Full circle. So in that case, did you pitch another book?
Yeah, well, I have another book coming out from them, Midnight City, which will be out next year in May. I had a few sit-down meetings with some publishers this convention, and an interesting interview with a video game developer. So it's been fun.
Oh, that's cool. That's actually very cool. Like you're still doing writing and drawing.
Yeah, I write for some illustrators. I illustrate for some writers, and I write and illustrate my own work as well.
What do you prefer?
Every project has its own unique thing. When it comes right down to it, I'm absolute happiest when I'm writing and illustrating my own work. But sometimes the unexpected joys of collaboration make those other projects sort of burn a little brighter.
Well, again, just me. I don't have the illustration background you do, but I do collaborate with illustrators on my stuff. And one of the things I really thoroughly enjoy about it is you see they have their own ideas and perspectives on things, and they make you rethink some of the things that you were doing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I enjoy that, actually, because it's usually better than what you imagine it to be.
Well, and in the case of Cassie and Tonk, Justin Curry had the project and brought it to me. He was the illustrator, but also the creator, and he had this idea for a story that we could turn into a book. So I came on, and in the credits, I wrote it and he illustrated it, but we made sure that it showed up with him as the creator, because he brought a really interesting thing, which is not a dynamic that usually happens with illustrators, where they already have a story and they just want some polish.
Well, especially like in comics, it's usually a very writer driven, and in reality it's like I said, I just find that illustrators bring so much. I did an interview earlier to mention like and this new I know now horror thing with Dr. Seuss, and the thing is his illustrations play such a huge part.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Dr. Seuss understood story pacing with illustration in a way that I wish more people working in comics would use.
I actually agree with that.
He understands a page turn like nobody else.
Yeah, actually, it's very, very true. And it's also the color, how he uses color. That's actually just, it's fantastic storytelling. But continuing on, so you've done 3 Imaginary Dream graphic novels, or am I?
I have 3 volumes of the Imagination Manifesto, volume of Ray Gun Gothic out. Infinitum is the newest book that I have out from CZP, and Midnight City is following up next year with them. I have Underworld coming out from Renegade Arts Entertainment, which I did with Laverne Kaczynski. So he wrote it, and I illustrated it, and it's being published by Alexander Finbo at Renegade Arts, and he has done a great job managing our 2 collective sets of madnesses and putting them into a cohesive story.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun. The way you just put that madnesses. So is there anything you weren't allowed to do?
You know what it really came down to in the end was Laverne had a really clear vision for how he wanted the book to look and feel. And I had a clear vision as how I wanted the book to look and feel. And we were very close in that overlap. And Alexander brought that missing piece to just align us both up so that we get the best book we can get.
That sounds actually very cool.
You know, it's the power of a good editor.
Yeah, I know. That's also a very uncommon thing these days as well. So okay, let's talk about Infinitum. So what's it about?
Infinitum is time travel noir. It's the story of a paradox agent. He's a homicide investigator that specializes only in temporal crimes. So he will only investigate murders that involve time travel. And one of the interesting things, at least I thought it was interesting, it was certainly fun, that I did in Infinitum, is I took the basic rules of time travel that people say, these are the things that can't happen in a time travel story or your plot won't make sense, and made them the only way that time travel could happen. So there must be paradox for time travel to occur. They don't have to worry about affecting the timelines because the agency in charge of time travel doesn't care. And the analogy I used is that imagine you were a tourist in Paris and you murder somebody. You will no more affect the outcome of French life or even the society of Paris than a time traveler would from somewhere else.
Well, it's interesting that you bring it from that point of view, because even the book of time travel has evolved quite a bit in terms of even fiction storytelling, because now we look at things on almost like a quantum level now, where it's not just this or this, it's and or but.
Just that's all I'm here for. Literally.
No, that's okay. Live vlogging and conventions. That's the way it goes, right? So, no, it's just like the idea is like instead of and it's like and or. So you would make a change that doesn't really matter. It's basically the whole idea.
You know, and it was difficult plotting it at first because I had to ask myself, what matters? Like, what does an individual? Can an individual actually change the outcome of a major societal or cultural perspective? The answer is I don't think that they can.
See, I actually disagree with you on that. But again, it's just a different perspective. I see what you're saying, because one person, right, impacting a whole, even though there would be ripples, no doubt, no matter what they do, it's just there's almost like every city you go to, every place you go, it's almost like it's an organism of itself.
Well, there you go. So let me clarify.
Yeah.
So it's not, the most erudite example is everyone says, as soon as you have a time machine, you go back in time and you kill Hitler. Well, that wouldn't stop World War.
No,
that wouldn't stop the World War at all. All of the socio-political tensions that were in place, right? All of the class divides that were in place would have meant that somewhere else, somebody else would have taken a similar role, and that same type of conflict would have occurred.
Absolutely.
The shape would be different.
Mhm.
The players would have been different, but the outcome on the macro scale would have been ultimately the same.
And that I might agree with. I don't know. You ever read Isaac Asimov's Foundation?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That actually ties into the whole mathematical, the psychohistory concept of individuals are impossible to predict. You can't do it, but the group as a whole, you can kind of see where things are going to go, no matter what, and that's kind of what like the feeling of that.
Yeah, and so one of the things I play with in Infinitum is that the agency has murders that they prevent in order to stabilize society, and murders that they ensure in order to stabilize society.
That's interesting because I mean, something like even though even if you are making changes, there would still be consequences regardless. Even if you didn't care, it'd be like, well, because this person didn't exist, this can't happen,
right?
Or at least not that way. So
and the main character is sort of saddled with this idea in an infinitely editable life, right? As a time traveler with no limitations, what would you leave intact? What would be the things you wouldn't change?
Yeah,
and he has to make those choices.
That's interesting. And the other interesting thing too is, well, time traveler can't really change his own past. I don't think.
This one can.
This one actually can.
Mm-hmm. And that's this sort of function is when you talk about it, people are talking about the logical loop of paradox from the standpoint of the human perspective, as if we matter, which we don't, not in a cosmological perspective. And so I just took that notion of, okay, so let's roll back. If you're talking about time travel, what you're actually talking about is space travel. If you want to go back 10 minutes ago, the planet was in a different space in rotation. The Earth was in a different place in rotation around the sun. The energy it would take to put you in a place that far in time and space. You might be in the same geographic location on the planet, but not in the celestial navigation, right? No. The math there is crazy. And so what I said was, if it's infinite, then it would take an infinite amount of energy to do. And so the only way that you can use time travel is using paradox so that the energy loop becomes infinite.
It almost sounds like chaos.
Oh.
No. I mean, in the scientific term, it's like almost the chaos and entropy is almost like you're tapping into that.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So, the characters. What to say without spoiling it? What I can say about the book is that what I did was I leaned heavily on the noir aspects of the storytelling to create characters and motivations. But then I whatever. It's a time travel story, but it's really a story about people, right? And it's a story of a person trying to figure out what's important in his life, what he wants to have as a result of the time he's putting into the things he does, and who's worth saving in his life.
Right? And honestly, I think that actually is a better pitch. Like, just to be fair, something that I figured out in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, and I've said this in a couple other of my interviews, is it's not really. You can have a story about flying unicorns, flying space dragons.
It's about people.
Yeah, it's always about people. It's always about people. It's always about.
Frank Herbert said it best. I think he was talking to. I want to say Random was the guy's name, but the poorly paraphrased quote is this: "Robots and aliens don't read books. People read books." And so you should be writing stories, even if they have robots, even if they have aliens, even if they have time travelers. The story has to be a human story or people won't relate to it. So I did that. I put the human story forefront in Infinitum. But everyone always asks the mechanics of time travel when you're at a science fiction convention. So.
Well, no, it's fair. And it's fun to talk conventions, but ultimately it's about the story.
Yeah.
Right, which is cool. So, okay. So let's ask 2 hard ones for you. What do you prefer, writing or illustrating?
To me, writing is illustrating, and illustrating is writing. Like, to me, I'm using visual language, so they're not exclusive to each other. They're just I have a broader tool set. Because I can illustrate. I have a wider set of tools to answer.
I actually really agree with that. I've been playing, like I said, that's why I'm doing like stuff like this. It's adding tools to my own tool. I can do audio. I've done video. I've done other things in the past. So it's just like, because I have it, you can just see that basically they all have the same thing in common. Ultimately, trying to send a message out there, and you basically are like writing. I should say illustration to be more apt. Video, audio, it's all art. It's all the same. It's all trying to convey a message.
Yeah, you're just trying to create a succinct way to tell a story that people want to connect with, for sure.
And finally, last question. I think I asked this the last time, but I'm going to ask it again anyway.
Okay, we all developed, right?
Yeah,
Maybe I'm different now.
Well, actually, that's why I'm asking it. What's your favorite thing to draw?
My favorite thing to draw. Lately, my favorite thing to draw has been I know it sounds funny, but it's what I'm not drawing has been my favorite thing to draw. I've been playing a lot with what's happening between panels.
Ooh.
And so I used to, like in the manifesto, for example, I did a lot of here's the beat where we see the consequence of the action. And so now I'm focusing more on here is what happens before and what happens after. And what information that I leave out is still transmitted across those two panels?
Or even better, what information is scarier now?
Yeah, well, in horror in particular, because I'm working on Midnight City is intended to be my scariest work, and the pacing there means, particularly in horror, you need more. In my opinion, you need more room to have scary things happen because the emotional fuse needs to be longer so that you invest in the character, you invest in their emotion when they're running away. It's not like a panel of them running. You need to show that transition of them almost getting away. Otherwise, there's no tension, without boring too many pages out of film, I'm trying to do what illustration can do that film can't, and do what comics can do that prose can't, and do with prose what comics can't.
That's actually very, very cool.
Thanks.
So, last thing, what would you like to promote? Like webpage, Twitter, contact information?
I'd say if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to call bullshit on anything, they should find me on Twitter at GMB Chomichuk, CHOMICHUK, or on Instagram at the same thing.
All right. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yes. Well, wasn't so bad.
No, it's great.
And that's it. I'd like to thank GMB Chomichuk for his time and effort, and hopefully he won't punch me in the face next time I see him because I misspelled his name, or mispronounced his name, I should say. You have to forgive me. It's about 3:30 in the morning. I am waiting to do my next interview for a future podcast as we speak for the big giant Skype. Kind of cool that doing the international thing. But to finish it off, his current book is called Infinitum. It is done through Chizine Publications. You can go to their website and pick it up. If not, you can check out Amazon, Kobo, Kindle, EPUB, or a print book if you're into that sort of thing, like us cool people are. And give him a purchase and give him a comment on Goodreads or Amazon. His Twitter and Instagram are at GMB Chomichuk, GMB CHOMICHUK. You can just check him out. You can see some of his works in progress, and just he's open to anyone chatting with him about anything. And like I said, he's a cool dude, and definitely worth the time and effort to get to know. And with that all said, we are at the end of another podcast here. I said I was going to do a reading from Storm Dancer, but I think I'm going to hold off on that for one more week. Instead, what I'm going to do is sign off and wish you all well. I'm going to try to start something a little new here. You can subscribe to this podcast through iTunes or through Podomatic. I currently have Storm Dancer available through Amazon, EPUB, Kindle, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, you name it, you can find it. Just click on it in order if you would be so inclined. Give me a review on Goodreads or Amazon itself. If you want to talk to me, my Twitter handle is at jpentellaresco. And or you can find me on the Facecrack at Joshua Pentellaresco. Facebook for those people who don't get my joke, but that's beside the point. Beyond that, everybody, you have yourself a good night. You stay out of trouble or don't get caught, whatever you subscribe to. Stay inspired, find your own dreams, and trust me when I tell you they are out there. Thank you.
Josh. Shush.